Good evening and welcome to Thursdays with NAMI. My name is Peg Morrison. I'll be your host tonight. I am the Director of Programs with NAMI North Carolina. That's the National Alliance on Mental Illness, North Carolina. I'm glad you're here. Thursdays with NAMI is our way of building conversations and building community around the topic of mental health. Tonight we'll be focusing on children's mental health. Growing up can be tough in normal times. In fact, sadly, for the past decade, suicide has been on the rise for ages 10 to 24. Today, it's the second leading cause of death in that age group. And more recently, we've had COVID and the isolation that came with the pandemic. Lots of tough stuff going on. That's why I'm thrilled to introduce you to tonight's guest, the new children's author, Jamie Edelbrock. Her book, Tangled Up, has been well received by the professionals and families alike. We'll be chatting with her in just a few moments. As usual, the first part of our show will be an interview with our guest. Partway through, we'll show a video of the week, and then we'll move on to questions from you, members of our virtual audience on Zoom and Facebook. But now I want to take a moment to thank our funders. Thursdays with NAMI is funded in part by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Abuse Services through the Federal Community Mental Health Services Block Grant Fund. We appreciate their guidance and support. Now, without further ado, Jamie Edelbrock is here tonight. She's married to her high school sweetheart, and they have 3 daughters. She has worn many hats over time, including a homeschool mom. A lot of moms have tried to wear that hat in the last year. Preschool director and a family ministry director. Her personal experience has inspired her to become an author and a children's advocate for mental health. So welcome, Jamie.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll jump right in. It's always fun to hear the backstory of our guests and what brought you here tonight, what brought your interest in mental health. So tell us about yourself in a nutshell.
Well, like you said, I was born and raised in Salem, Oregon. Once I left the nest there, I have lived around the United States now, living in Indonesia with my high school sweetheart and our 3 girls. Yeah, I've always worked with children, always. And I've always wanted to be a children's book author. So here I am in a nutshell.
Right. Yeah, you did it. That was very succinct. And of course, I see you've got your Tangled Up book next to you. I've got one here as well.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I have to say, I love the artwork in it, and I like the title so much. And speaking to that, I saw you on a show similar to this one called Parenting Teens with Dr. Cam, and it sounded like Tangled Up, and you were alluding to this a little earlier before we started officially with the show. Tangled Up was your response to a difficult time in your life. It was 2019 and so many things were going on. Tell us about that a little bit.
I like to call this phase our struggle bus phase. I mean, there's a lot of hardship in parenting and growing up. Absolutely. But this phase, my daughter was struggling in school and with her peer group. My husband was deployed to a war zone at the time. So that was also very stressful. And I had a job. I was a children's ministry director at the time. And it had been an unhealthy work environment for a very long time. Came to a breaking point where I no longer trusted the leadership. And because of my, my sanity and my own mental health, I decided I needed to quit. That meant I'm also leaving my job and stepping out of that community. So on top of everything, I just felt like, for my own mental health, my family's sake, this has to stop. But it was hard because there was also a lot of hard things going on with my daughter and my husband. So I really felt like we had nothing. That wasn't, community surrounded us at the time, but when I quit and my daughter going through a hard time and husband being deployed, it felt like nothing. And I could see my one daughter really, really struggling with that and with what was going on with her. And I wanted to write her a letter. I wanted her to get help, and she didn't want it. So I wrote a letter. I was yeah, actually in gymnastics class, and and my other daughter's gymnastics class, and I was just writing and writing and writing. And the minute I saw it, I thought, this is my book. This is my children's book.
Wow.
And that's kind of how it all happened.
Well, that must have felt so grace-filled. I know sometimes when I sit and write, it comes out beautifully. And sometimes when I sit and write, it comes out, it's meaningful to me and not so much necessarily to other people. So that must have been quite an inspired feeling.
It was a little bit of that beauty in brokenness, and being able to see something come out of something so negative, and not only help my daughter, but the potential to help a lot of other kids was, I could see a little bit of purpose in that. So absolutely.
Okay. And yeah, I can imagine feeling alone. You had to step away from a job, and that entailed stepping away from your church community, and your
Mhm.
husband had just left. So that was
Mhm.
challenging. How open is your daughter about the challenges she was having at that time?
She's very open. The key to any relationship is communication, and we really try to cultivate that in our house, and just being real and being honest. And during that time, she was very quiet. So that took some, why I wanted her to see a counselor and a therapist. If you're not going to talk to me, I want you to talk to somebody else. Now she's very open about it. And if there's any struggles that she's having or my other daughter's having, they know they can come talk to us and ask to speak to a professional. That's something that is top priority in this house.
Okay. Yeah, well, thank you for that. And so how has your life changed since you wrote the book?
Well, it came out when it was released when we were in Indonesia. So that has been tricky because I can't, release it, like be there for the release in the United States. But since the book, it's actually been really peaceful, and I've been doing what I love. I haven't, gone back to a professional job. I've been able to pour into the book, pour into my family, pour into other mental health outlets, and doing what I love and spending time with my family. It is actually very peaceful, especially from what I came from. So it's been great.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So you've got the book and you're promoting it as well as you can. Thankfully, the world has gone virtual in this time frame, so that again, your timing was good.
Yes, I actually love it, and the topic fits well with people in the embassy community and kids all around the world. And so I've been able to read it and promote it at the elementary school here. So that's been great.
Very good. And so tell me what Tangled Up means to you, and what helps your family when things feel stuck.
So Tangled Up is a visual of how messy and tangled up life can be. And that's really what I saw when I was trying to explain that to my daughter. Like, you're just tangled up right now, but that's not who you are. And so to me, it's a book of hope. Like, it's, a visual that our right now is not our forever. And if you feel stuck, it's going to be okay. And there's people that can help you, and you're not alone. So it's a visual of that.
And there's a line that I love from the book about, you are, let me see if it's on the back here. Your heart and soul are full of beautiful, colorful, vibrant threads, and you deserve to shine. Was that in that original letter that you wrote?
Yeah, this is all the original. Yeah, because I know what she's capable of and what she was capable of. And it's so hard when you see someone you love struggling. And I just pictured, her withered and knotted up and sad. And I know what she's capable of, and I know what everybody's capable of. And so that, yeah, absolutely. We were put on this earth to shine. And so when you don't, and when you're stuck, and when you're sad, you just need a little bit of hope. And I think that's, yeah.
I can see just hearing you speak and your language, it's kind of a language of recovery and hope, but there's also not simple in a bad way, but like a clarity that I could see working very well for a younger audience.
Mhm.
So that comes through very much. Tell me about the first time you made a therapy appointment for your family. There's a quote that I found that was very, very touching and vulnerable.
Um, wow. Well, the first time I made the appointment, I was scared half to death because I thought that if my children, and the first time I made a family therapy appointment was when my children were a little bit younger. Um, but I thought I had failed in some way. I thought if my children were struggling or if I was struggling, that I had done something wrong. Because, I have visions. I think all moms do that, you're going to have the perfect family and the perfect kids and everything's going to be smooth and great. And it wasn't.
Mm,
And I was a preschool director at the time. And so to see my children struggling, I thought I had to have it all together. So it was really hard for me. So the first time I made the appointment was actually on the side of the road because I just got called from to pick up one of my daughters from a field trip because she was acting out and I had to come pick her up. And so that was kind of the final straw. I was like, I need help. I cannot do this by myself. So my hands were trembling. I was shaking. I was crying. And I remember saying, I just need help. And of course they said, well, you got to fill out the paperwork and we need background and, all of the logistics. And I just said, but I want it right now. I need help. And I wish I would have asked for help sooner. So I didn't ask for help on the side of the road crying, desperate. But
mm,
going to our first session was also a little bit scary because we didn't know what to expect. And again, I thought I would get in trouble or I thought I did something wrong, major
mm.
mom guilt. And that wasn't the case at all. Stepping in and receiving the help, receiving the peace, receiving the support, that with the first meeting was just peace filled and like, okay, this is a good thing. And we made the right thing. We gave our family and our child a gift.
Mm, okay. And so it sounds like there was a process of building up and acting out at school, and she was removed from a field trip, something like that. How much can you tell us about the behaviors that you saw and what you were experiencing?
Yeah. So she was acting out a lot and I thought it was just bad behavior. And so again, I didn't know, am I doing something wrong? We tried every single, parenting technique and nothing was really changing. So I would get frustrated. My husband would get frustrated. She would get frustrated. The school was getting frustrated. Like
Mm,
everything was, we started talking to school counselors and it wasn't until, and the school health counselors were extremely helpful. Absolutely. I love them and always will. But it wasn't until I was actually, she had thrown a huge fit at the school I was working at in front of a bunch of parents. And I was just at a loss. And one of my friends said, hey, why don't you think about seeing a counselor, seeing therapists? Maybe there's something going on. And we did. And she had some testing and turns out she has anxiety. And
okay.
I learned a lot about that, acting out and the symptoms of anxiety look a lot alike. And so once we got the tools and support to help her anxiety, things really started changing. We were responding different. And so, yeah, that was kind of a hard lesson to learn. But again, I'm so glad we stepped in and received the help. Otherwise, I think it just would have kept spiraling down.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I can certainly relate to that. Having lived with depression and anxiety and pre-treatment, my relationships really struggled,
Mhm.
just because it comes off as negative energy that people don't understand. So, yeah.
Exactly. And you take it personally, especially as a parent or a friend, or why, I would get the dreaded "I hate you," or the stomping the feet, the slamming the doors, and you're just wondering, what? Why is this happening? Um, again, which is why it's so important to just get an outside perspective and outside help because you can see
Mhm.
like, hey, it's nothing. I'm it's not me, but if I learn how to respond different and we're going to help her. So that's what happened.
Yeah, and as harsh as those words sound on the surface, I don't think they're actually that unusual, and certainly not to be taken at face value. I'm so glad that you all had the insight to get some help and get behind those words and understand what tools could be helpful to change, to change her path moving forward.
Oh, absolutely. And when a relationship is broken, especially a parent-child relationship, it's devastating. And so relationship over anything with our kids, it's a relationship 100%. And when that was broken and hurting, that's when we knew we have to change something. Otherwise, the trajectory is going to be way off course.
Yeah, I took a mental health first aid course once, and I learned that the average age for anxiety to start up it's very young. It's 11 or 13, one of those.
Yeah,
So
it is, and she was really young. This is when she was about six or seven, and so this, again, it was shocking to us, but it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, that was the median, not the average, for those of you who pay attention to every detail, which all right. So what is a professional detangler, and how did they help?
I think there's a lot of detanglers, just detanglers, whether it's a friend or a parent or a boss, anyone trusted that you can talk to. Absolutely. Maybe your favorite podcaster, a book, going for a walk. I know when I was going through what I was going through, walks helped me all the time. So there's a lot of ways to detangle, and there's a lot of detanglers out there. But a professional detangler is a mental health professional, because they've been trained to detangle us when we're not in, and we're, just stuck. They're trained. They know our worth. They know how to help us shine again. And so professional detangler is definitely a mental health professional, whether it's a school counselor, whether it's a therapist, sometimes a doctor even.
Right, absolutely. And so again, tangled up refers to that bunched up feeling we get when we've got emotions or mental health concerns that are stewing and not getting aired out and not getting detangled. And so the detanglers in our life, it could be a great friend that we can be so unfiltered with and not have to put on our public face, or a professional guidance. And I see we've got the NAMI helpline information in our chat box. So if you want help navigating the system or learning about what professional and natural support detanglers are available in your community, go ahead and call that helpline, and that's going to help you out a lot. We're there to support, and our helpline manager really does understand. She's been there as a family member, so please give her a call there. What do you want to say to parents or kids who are just starting to deal with that tangled up feeling? What do you wish you knew?
Oh my gosh, I want to tell all of them. First of all, I want to give them a big hug, and let them know they're not alone. They're not alone in this journey. And that there is hope, and that if they're struggling right now, get help. If they've just received help, good for you. It's going to get better. And I wish someone would have taken me by the shoulders and said, your right now is not your forever. It's going to get better, because in the moments of hardship and struggle and being tangled up, it feels like forever, and it feels like it's never going to end. But that's not the case. And so I wish someone would have given me that perspective. Well, anytime in any hardship, but when this mental, health journey first started, I wish someone would have told me that. So that's my message to anyone starting out or needing help: is it gets better, and your right now is not your forever.
Did you deal with any stigma, any difficulties that way?
Just in mental health in general, with mental health. Yeah, absolutely. I think, growing up, it would just going to counseling or therapy or getting help just wasn't talked about. And so again, when had to reach, it took me a long time to actually call someone and make an appointment because again, I thought something was wrong with me or something was wrong with her. What are people going to think about our family? You know, I'm a preschool director. I work with kids. If I need help, are they going to still respect me as a director? And so there was a lot of stigma there, but it's, as soon as I stepped into it and we started receiving the help and the support, it's a gift. It's a gift. And I know we'd want to do anything for our kids and, and families. And that is a gift you can give.
Yeah. How's your daughter doing now? The one who struggled?
They're all doing great. The one with anxiety is thriving right now. And I think it's because we all have tools in our emotional toolbox. We all know how to respond. We communicate really well. And the other one is, I have 3 total and they're all thriving. They're all doing great here. I mean, we have our struggles and of course moving to a different country and, reconnecting as a family after, dad's been gone for a while has its ups and downs, but like I said, communication is the key to any relationship and openness. And so that's what we work on. So yeah, everyone's doing great.
Yeah, that is wonderful that you have that safety net within the home, that safe space that sort of protects you from the world in a way. That's a wonderful thing to have. The sort of,
it's important. Yeah.
It's absolutely. And so I know for me, with my anxiety, moving would be a huge trigger. How was that for the family? Was that a challenge to get through?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we miss home, and of course the girls miss home. They're younger, they really miss their friends. And things are new, and that's a trigger for anxiety. We don't know what to expect. It's a new country, it's a new culture, it's a new school, everything's new. I talked about silver linings earlier, before we started. And one of the silver linings of COVID is that we've been able to be home and homeschool. So during this transition, they didn't have to rush off to school. We could be together, we could be relaxed, and get to know our space, and not have the anxieties of being in a classroom. You're on Zoom, but it feels safer when you're behind a screen versus in a classroom. So that has been a silver lining, that we've been able to just be together while they're doing school and in our safe place and get comfortable before we can go out in the world. But we're very open with, hey, school counselors, and if someone wants to talk to a therapist, absolutely, if you're feeling down. So yeah, they're adjusting well because of all of that.
Yeah. When it sounds like you've had such a good response, or maybe there's an element of luck in the professionals you've had experience with, that it sounds like they've been good across the board, maybe.
Yeah, I haven't had a bad experience with a counselor or therapist that we've worked with. Any school counselor I've always been so impressed with. And I love the knowledge and wisdom that they bring, and the calming the calming presence that the therapists that we've seen have given has been much needed. I remember walking into one of my daughter's therapy appointments, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I was super stressed. And the therapist looked at me and said, "It's going to be okay." And I was like, "Oh, you're right." Like, okay. So just that calming. I mean, everyone's been great. And I think it matters when, we're open and honest with them too, that they can help the best that they can.
Yeah, absolutely. I know what you mean. Having a therapist that is not surprised by anything that you say, that it's like, we got this. It's nothing's going to ruffle our feathers in this space. That's a wonderful comfort.
Yeah, that's how it's been. Yeah, nothing, I think we say it to our kids, but this is how it felt like she was saying to us, was there's nothing that you can do that's going to surprise me or make me not love you. And so, and I think that's what you need in a detangler for sure.
Absolutely. So I see we've got some comments in the chat box. Thank you, Rebecca. I'm glad you had good experiences. We have had some good and some bad. The bad ones can be very damaging, unfortunately. Very true. I'm thankful for the good ones. If you have questions or comments uh, for Jamie or myself, please go ahead and put those in the Q&A. The chat box is fine too, but if it scrolls away and I miss it, then everyone will be sad. So please go ahead and do that. One more question before we show our video of the week. What gives you hope? You've kind of mentioned some things.
Yeah, you know what it really does is the future gives me hope because I see how resilient humans are. And it's so easy, especially nowadays, we see just doom and gloom and you turn on the TV and things just seem awful. And then when, we see people who were tangled up all the time, but people are resilient and the future will get better. Like I said before, our right now is not our forever. And so that gives me hope.
I love that phrasing, right now is not our forever. That's what I was referring to with the kind of a very simple way of speaking, but also a very powerful way. So
Yeah.
I like that. I appreciate that style. All right, so for now, we're going to wrap up our interview portion of the show. Please, people in the virtual studio audience, write your questions in the Q&A box. It's at the bottom of your screen. There's a little Q&A bubble icon thing. Type your questions in. They will magically be delivered to Jamie. I also want to give a big shout out to our folks behind the scenes who are helping us out. We've got Executive Director Gary Kreitz, who's always there. We've got some new volunteers, Melanie Barker, Erin Miller, and Tiffany, I believe, is also with us. So thank you so much for being here to learn about volunteering and help out with Thursdays with NAMI. You're making our night. Now for our video, we've got Policy Director of NAMI North Carolina, Ashish George. He's going to be talking about NAMI North Carolina's Advocacy Day, which is coming right up for us tomorrow. So he's got a great sense of humor. Here's Ashish.
Hi there. My name is Ashish George. I'm the Public Policy Director and Psychiatric Advanced Directive Specialist for NAMI North Carolina. My name gets mispronounced all kinds of ways. Ashes to Auschwitz, if you can believe it. I've heard it all. But until June 11th, I'm happy to have people mispronounce my name as advocacy. Because on June 11th, NAMI North Carolina will be hosting our Advocacy Day event online. Advocacy Day is an opportunity for people to find out about important public policy priorities from people who have experienced mental health challenges, legislators, and NAMI North Carolina staff. We'll be talking about issues like Medicaid expansion, rural mental health, funding early intervention programs, especially in disadvantaged areas, and alternatives to involuntary commitment. Advocacy Day is a great opportunity to find out how you can contact your legislators directly and have conversations with them about why these priorities matter to you. So please register online for June 11th's Advocacy Day event. And remember, Advocacy George sent you. Hi there. My name.
That was awesome. I think once was enough. All right. So Ashish George sent you, AKA Advocacy George. Join us tomorrow, and we will be putting a link in the chat box shortly, so you'll have that if you'd like to sign up. Now it is time for your questions, members of our virtual studio audience and Facebook Live folks. Here we go. Can a religious faith be a help and or a hindrance to mental health?
I think it can be both. And I think that depends on leadership. I think that depends on just the situation that you're in the church that you're in. For me, I grew up in a faith-based house, a Christian family, always going to church. And so when I got this job as a children's director at a church and I worked at a church, unfortunately, it wasn't healthy. And so for me, I had to step away, which is something I never thought that I would do, was step away from a church and a community like that. So I think it really depends on the situation. Yeah, it can be both.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And occasionally we'll run into a situation where people are told you you don't need those medications. Your faith can carry you through this. Sometimes people do get downright bad advice, unfortunately. But I think that's changing. I think that's becoming less and less common, and that's of course a good thing.
Yeah, what's important is that you're true to yourself. And I think if you notice a red flag, like maybe someone saying, you know, you don't need medication, or maybe you don't need to see a therapist, you know, just pray, or, you know, something like that. And you're like, you know, I think I actually do. You know, we know ourselves better than anyone. So if there's a red flag, that's, you know, time to step away or time to maybe look somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. And question from Melanie, how did Jamie find therapists? What recommendations do you have or anyone else on how to identify, locate counselors for assistance, especially for a specific need like autism, NLD, and VLD? I'm not sure what that stands for.
I started Googling just therapists in our area and then asking advice. Also asking for school counselors, hey, you know, I want to see someone outside. Who do I see? Also, people at the church, I asked, you know, who do we see? Who do we see? Everyone, schools, churches, they all have great advice. And if you just Google your specific need, and then therapist or counselor in your area, you should get a lot. And be picky. Like, it's okay to interview therapists. It's okay to ask a lot of tough questions, because they're going to be helping you with your struggles and your personal life and your child's personal life. So it's okay to be picky. It's okay to, really do your research. Absolutely.
Okay. And thank you for that clarification. NLD is a nonverbal learning disability. So of course that would probably make it a little more challenging. I know many people find good advice from support groups. If you call an agency, even NAMI, we are not allowed to say, go to this therapist or go to that doctor. But when you go to a support group, people are sharing their own personal lived experience, and they will tell you, I had a great experience with this one, not a good experience with that one. So I think support groups and those natural supports, informal networks can really give you the information that you're looking for there.
And right now on Facebook and social media, I think if you search, you know, different groups, support groups too, everything can be online, and you can have a great online community, especially with your specific needs.
That's an excellent point too. I know there are a lot of groups for autism in particular. And of course, you're also welcome at the NAMI groups. We see a lot of autistic folks and family members as well. Okay. So I know there are more questions out there. I know there are all kinds of parents who have concerns and struggles that they're going through. I know I'm going to make a quick announcement, since we're in between questions, about our speaker next week. We've got Michael Fenning, who will speak candidly about his challenges with addiction, anxiety, and PTSD. He's been through a lot. He's a veteran, and he's just completed both a bachelor's and a master's degree in social work from North Carolina Central University. So we've got a lot of good information coming from him, a lot of insight. And again, Advocacy Day is tomorrow, June 11th. You can find that on our Facebook page or our website, naminc.org. Have you found, do you have a military or a government type community that has been supportive in your case, Jamie?
Yeah, the community here, the embassy community, has been great. And a lot of people in our same issues are moving from the United States here, obviously. And so that's been a huge help, to talk to people who are in our same shoes, and the kids to connect with them. That's absolutely been a huge help.
Yeah.
There's a great, we have a great psychologist here, a great help with the international school. Their counselors have been amazing.
Oh, I was just gonna ask if she kept her psychologist from here and did a virtual, like a telehealth type approach, or if you switched all that.
We couldn't do that. We couldn't, because she couldn't practice in a different country. And so, but it kind of changed the relationship a little bit, because then now we can be friends, and we can talk, or, see each other on Facebook, social media. So that's been great because she didn't go away. So the kids can still say hi and see her if need be.
Well, that's pretty wonderful.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, do you have any comments that you'd like to share? Anything that we have not asked you?
No, I think, the biggest thing speaking about my book and with kids, I've seen some chat come up that I haven't been able to answer or see, but this book is great for children starting out in mental health and just letting them know, like, hey, just breaking the stigma early. I think the earlier, the better. So if there are any parents out there, any caregivers that are, hesitant about getting their child help, even if they think maybe my child needs help, this book helps start that conversation. And so I'm just encouraging, book or not, go get help, even if you think something's wrong or maybe something is hugely wrong. Just go seek help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does sound like the book could be a very effective icebreaker. It's
Absolutely.
so approachable.
Yes, absolutely. It has been. And I read it in classrooms and different story times, and the kids really respond to it.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. Yeah, that was a question that just came to my mind, is I know you've gotten good results and reviews from mental health professionals. How are actual families? What are they saying?
They're saying that it is a perfect way to have, your child on your lap and say, hey, listen, you're feeling sad right now. You're not alone, and you're going to get help.
Mm.
And it helps open up that communication with you and your child too, because they start asking questions about it, about mental health. And like I said, it breaks the stigma at an early age, because sometimes doctors' offices can be scary. And so counselor's office or therapist's office, you're going into a room you're not familiar with. And so with, the colorful pages, cheerful pages, it's, hey, this might not be so bad. There's smiling faces. It's colorful. And so I know, a lot of counselors and therapists that have this either in their offices or at their schools to start that conversation with kids as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see another benefit, just that story time is something that's comforting and familiar. So rather than going to a new place or sitting down at the kitchen table, like, we need to have a talk about something.
Exactly. As soon as you do that, they either turn off their ears or they get scared. So just an informal, hey, this is a story time, and having it be just a regular book, like, oh, professional detanglers help me, counselors help me, therapists help me. That way, even when they're in school and they need to go to the counselor's office, they don't see it as a bad thing. They see it as a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is colorful and approachable and fun, with lots of good stuff going on there. Any future books coming up for us?
Actually, yes, there's one in the publishing process right now. It's called Be the Sparkle, and it talks about the scary world we live in and how to respond to that in a positive way by being a sparkle, by being a light. So it's about acts of kindness. Again, it's very much telling children they're not alone, and adults get scared too, but together we can be a light when the world feels dark. So that's coming out soon.
All right, well, there's something to keep an eye on. And virtual studio audience, there's still time to ask your questions. Don't be afraid, don't hesitate. One more announcement, please fill out the survey that will magically appear after you leave this webinar. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you'd like to see more of or less of. That helps us improve over time, and it helps us show our funders what we do as well. So please fill out that survey for us. And got another question here. What books were influential in your life?
So I have a lot of favorite children's books. I love children's books. Of course, I love Dr. Seuss books. I love rhyming. My next book will be a rhyming book, which will be fun. I love, if you go to my website, jamieedelbrock.com, I actually have all of my favorite books under children's resources, and they're self-help books for kids too. But stories of hope, I've always loved, always, always, always.
Mhm.
And I was an Anna Green Gables fan as for chapter books, and so that's been fun. Seeing the Green Gables or Anne with an E come out on TV, which has been fun.
Ah, gotcha.
Any stories of hope, I love, I cling to.
Yeah. Are your daughters interested in writing? Or are they wanting to follow that path?
My youngest is, yeah, my youngest is. She is a great writer, and she, all of her school conferences, they say she is such a great writer. She wrote a speech recently and spoke at her school. Instead of a TED Talk, they called it a Pi Talk. And she wrote a speech all about saving the cats here in Indonesia. So that was pretty special. But she writes books, little tiny books all the time, and has us read them. Very imaginative, yeah.
Oh, that sounds adorable. Sounds like she has your heart for advocacy.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have, is advocacy part of everything you do, or do you have certain projects as a children's mental health advocate that you spearhead outside of your book?
This is all becoming new to me. I've always worked with kids. I've always cared for kids, and I've always said, relationship over anything, especially, in parenting, relationship over dictatorship. As teachers, relationship, that's what matters. Employees, relationship matters. And so when this all came about and came to a head, I've worked with children. I love to write. And then seeing the struggles with my own kids, I thought this is what I need to be doing. And this is important. This is what parents need to hear. This is what caregivers need to hear. And part of helping children's mental health is also helping, parents and caregivers' mental health, because when we're feeling off, we're not going to be a support and help to our children. And so just letting the parents and caregivers know they're not alone and there's no shame in getting help is huge. So it's all coming to a head. I'm kind of figuring it out. I have a website now, jamieedelbrock.com, that has a bunch of resources I'm gathering from a lot of different people. I'm starting to write on a bunch of different outlets, just to kind of get, people might need a friend. People need to know they're not alone. I'm not a professional, but I am an imperfect mom who loves her kids. And so I know the struggles that comes with. And so if anyone ever feels like I'm alone or I'm the only one that's ever happened to, I'm like, no, I'll be your friend. And I promise it's happened to me too. So that's kind of where I'm at.
That's a wonderful and bold promise. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of funny and awful things, but as to just be real and say, hey, nobody's perfect, and I will be your imperfect friend because I'm definitely an imperfect mom. So I'm there with you.
NAMI was actually started by a group of mothers sitting around a kitchen table in Madison, Wisconsin in '79.
I read that. Yeah, I read that. That's amazing.
Yeah, and so that's what our focus is too, along with support for folks who have a mental health challenge, is that caregiver, the parent, the sibling, because there is definitely that big ripple effect in families. If one person is going sideways, everyone else is wondering, what did I do wrong? So our family support groups, our classes, family to family, all of that is about the caregiver. And of course, on the peer side, we have peer-to-peer class and connection recovery support groups. So we cover all the perspectives as well. New question: what would be a perfect day for you?
A perfect day for me. Oh, wow. It would involve music. I love music. I love adventure. I don't know if you're familiar with the Enneagram, but I'm an Enneagram 7. And so that means I love fun. I love being spontaneous. I love adventure. And so it would involve music, some sort of adventure where it's something new, especially in a new country. Let's go find a new place to explore. And probably chocolate, coffee.
I like it.
Yes. And I love being around people and being around friends. So I would gather my friends. We would go have a fun adventure, and then we'd come home and be with my husband and relax and be with my family.
All right. Well, that sounds like a beautiful day to me too. Members of our virtual studio audience with Zoom and on Facebook, please give us your questions if you have any more. I'm going to do some announcement reminders. We'd love to see you tomorrow at Advocacy Day. You can find that at naminc.org. You can check that out in the chat box if there's a link there. I believe there is. Also join us next week. We've got Michael Fenning, a recent social work graduate from North Carolina Central University, who will be sharing his dramatic story of survival. He's lived with anxiety, military sexual trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder. He's been homeless, justice involved. He's been through it all. And yet he's got his master's degree in social work and he's ready to help the world and be an advocate. So a lot of courage there to that story. And again, please fill out our survey. We appreciate it so very much. We're eternally grateful. And, you know, we kind of go with the flow on Thursdays with NAMI. We go as long as the questions keep us. If you have anything you'd like to add or like a closing statement, this would be a good time to do that.
I think I saw it in the chat earlier. It was not popping up, but I think I saw where to buy Tangled Up. And you can buy Tangled Up anywhere books are sold. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Target, anywhere.
Right. Yeah, you are with one of the bigger publishing houses, which is very exciting. And so I noticed Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all those classic places where you would buy a book. And there it is in the chat box. So thank you for that. Okay, I think we are going to wrap up now, but I want to thank you so much for your time, Jamie Edelbrock, and for your advocacy, for your love of children and your openness with sharing your story.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it was our pleasure too. And everyone have a good night. I'm so glad you were here. Be well in the week ahead. And remember, it's okay to talk about mental health. It's okay to ask for support. We are here to listen. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.